Welcome to my crazy project that's about a year in the making and hopefully gonna get finished real soon. So today is March 27th and 2 days from now is my sister's birthday and about 2 weeks from now is my sister's wedding anniversary. So there's a little bit of backstory with this. So as you can see behind me, I have the Yosemite National Park panel from Riley Blake, and there was 2 variations on it. There's a different panel that looks like this, but something about this one felt right. And so let me backtrack a little bit. I'm kind of jumping around because this is kind of a tricky subject that's going to be a lot to get through. So my sister is much more outdoorsy than me. When I mentioned this panel during Instagram Quilt Fest, I mentioned that they would need to do the quilts in the wild photos for me. That would be my sister. She has climbed Half Dome twice. I think the first time she didn't quite make it up all the way, but the second time she did. She went with my dad both times. My younger brother went. So all of my siblings have climbed Half Dome except for me. And I don't know if I will at this point. But the reason why I picked this panel is because Yosemite is very special to her because it is this place that she spent a lot of time with my dad. And I wanted to make something that would be, since her and her husband are more of the camping trip variety, unlike myself, I wanted to make them a quilt that they could take with them on these trips that would keep them cozy, keep them warm, keep them cuddly, and also remind them of one of their favorite places to go. And so with that, this panel came into the life. So I felt like I needed to make this for my sister in this quick of a turnaround because last year my dad's accident was on my sister's wedding anniversary. So I felt like, of all people, she needed something to remind her of dad in a special way. And I felt like this quilt, because that's the way that we communicate. We don't hug, we're not touchy-feely people. I felt like this quilt was gonna be the way to do it. But I bought the panel and it just sat around because I kept looking at people's panel quilts and I just didn't like the flying geese. I didn't like a bunch of different things. Like, I felt like they were just too blah. Panels really aren't my thing. I've done a panel quilt or two before, but this one was a different dimension than the other one that I had done. So the previous panel quilt that I did was, it was a 24.5 by 44 panel. So it was a little bit narrower and skinnier. This is a yard panel, so it's 36 across by 40 whatever down. And so I wasn't finding very many patterns that I really liked in regards to this dimension, and I didn't have the brain power over the last year, clearly, if I was planning a wedding as well, to do the math and reconfigure things. But I am part of the Young and Millennials Quilters group on Facebook, which is a fabulous group. And somebody asked about a modern way with these panels. And there was one that I saw that that somebody did, and then they graciously also posted their little map of how they did their corners. So her name is Sarah, Sarah W. I can't remember what her last name is, but she did just simple strips around the sides and the top and bottom, and then the corners kind of looked like they were interlaced with the different colors. So there was like 5 different strips all the way around bordering. And I was just like, that's it. That's perfect. I can, at first I thought I was going to have to figure it myself, but then she posted her grid and I couldn't be more grateful for her. And so I am very excited to do this. My goal is to sew it at a sew day, which is this Saturday, and then quilt it next Wednesday, and then bind it at my retreat, and then give it to her on April 8th, which is the day. And so then it can go home with her up to Oregon, and worst case, if it doesn't make it home with her, we are traveling up there for my niece's birthday at the end of April, and so it'll eventually get to her then, but at least I want to reveal it to her while she's here in town and make her take pictures with it. So so what I did is I went and bought my fabrics. I started by picking 5 grunges, and then I felt like 2 of them were too close in color, so I picked a 6th. And now I just need to figure out what order to put them in. So I've got this one. So these are the 2 that were very close in color, these like blue-gray ones. I got this like salmon one. I want to say that's like tea rose. I got this blue one. So I I pulled these all as ones that were pretty close to colors within the panel. So then this is the one that I added in just to have something a little bit different. So first thing I'm gonna do is figure out which order I want these to go in. This is gonna stay on here. So this is the border that's printed on the panel. So I've got to trim this up. I'll probably trim it right up to the edge there. So that'll come in a little bit, and then figure out which order these are gonna go in. So then you can see me start to cut strips. One of these two is gonna be the binding, I believe. That's my plan, but there you have my grungy goodness that's gonna go with this nice Yosemite panel. So let's get laying out and do some cutting. So now I've gone ahead and sewn all my squares across so that it makes 5 across, and now I just need to sew those together 5 down so then it gets that nice little corner feature that gives it that interlaced look. So once I do that, they're all going to be sewn together in my corner sections, and then I'm going to sew them to the top and bottom strip sets and then sew them to the quilt to finish everything up. So after just one sew day, this is how my Yosemite quilt turned out. So I think it came together really well. It came together really fast. I was able to do it in just that one sew day because all it is sewing strips that are with the fabric and then trimming it down to size. I did have to trim down more than I thought I needed to because my strips ended up, my panel ended up longer than my strips ended up. So I had to trim that down more. And I think overall I based it off of this line here. So I did 1.5 inches from that line to get a good even straight all the way around. And then I just built out from there. And so I'm super thankful for Sarah doing her little grid. I used 3.5-inch strips like she did. And this thing came out big. It's like 66 by 72, something in that range. And so it's gonna be a good, nice, big lap throw size quilt. And with that, it's now time to quilt it. So I'm very excited to get this on the long arm. I was going to take it into the shop and iron it with our Laura Star to see if that really helped get this crease out. But I think I'm just going to use my big board and like really crank up my iron and maybe use some Best Press or some my Mister bottle to kind of get it to really get that crease out from being folded. On the back, I got some Minky, and so because of the size of this, I'm going to turn it and load it on my frame sideways because I got the 80 wide Minky, so I don't have to piece it. I felt like this just needed something in the furrier variety versus just having that smooth. And then I'm going to use my Malachite pantograph, which kind of looks like a topographical map. I think that's going to look really good. And then as far as thread color, because it's so light in this corner and so dark down in that corner, I had to kind of find some middle ground. Got this thread. It says it's called Pebble, and it's by Glide because that's all I use on my machine. So that's going to be my top of my bobbin. It's just going to sink in the back, and we're going to get quilting, and this is going to get done real soon. And then I'll have to decide my binding. I think the one that I bought is not going to be the one that I use. The more I look at it, the more I'm thinking blue. Just because of this backing now. This gray didn't look so great next to it. And so I'm feeling like the blue. So we'll see if that's what I end up with or if something else happens between now and delivery day. So let's go the long arm. So here we are all basted in, and then I've got the Malachite pantograph blown up as big as I can get it, and then that still leaves these to be like an inch between. So I'm hoping it won't be too much thread added into this space here, but it is what it is. I think it's the best choice, the best option, and we're just gonna do it. So let's hit go and go. I think this is looking pretty good, and I have zero regrets with this pantograph. So there's the front, and then you can still kind of see it on the back a little bit in different angles, but it looks so good. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to go trim it up on the floor so I can pack it up, take it to my retreat with me, and put some binding on. And it all fits perfectly inside this giant Ziploc bag, and it's next to my Tudo, so I don't forget it. So after the combination of a guild sow day and my guild retreat and a Wednesday in between with my long arm, the Yosemite quilt is complete. There's my little quilt tag on there. I guess I ran out. I'm running low on my adult Elroy quilt tags, so she got one of the little baby ones, but I think it's just as cute. So let me hold this up so you can see it. Actually, first I'm gonna tease you with the minky backing. So this is the Mirage. I think it's charcoal. I will have to double check on that color again, but I do like how even within the furry, fluffier texture, you can still see the malachite pantograph that I did, which is kind of like that topographical map. And so let's find the top of this and give you a little reveal. So, right side up? Yes, we are. So this is one of the, I think this is only like the second or third quilt I've done that's panel. You can't even see the panel right there, but these corners turned out so good. I'm so glad that Sarah posted her little map of how to do it and how she laid it out, because that was just perfect. And then my husband actually helped me figure out the color layout to the order to do everything in. And the one thing I did change up from my original plan was that I was going to use, I bought 6 different fabrics originally. I was going to use the darker one that was left over to do my binding, but once I ended up with this color on the back, it just felt too dark and it didn't quite tie together. So I thought the blue was the perfect little addition, and it just came together nicely. It's still a framing up binding, but not aggressively dark. So there is your little peek at this. Yes, I was able to give it to her and reveal it to her while she was here, but she wasn't able to take this on the plane with her. She didn't have enough carry-on space, so we're all going up to visit her and hang out for my niece's birthday, and so this is gonna go up with us. Good thing we will be driving, so we have the carry-on space to take it with us and then leave it with her so that she can have a little camping quilt. And then I also realized both of my brothers got a minky backed quilt, so it was also equally appropriate that she got one as well. So this little extra special. And so I'm excited for how it came together, and I think it was just the perfect use of this panel and the perfect use of grunge to kind of give a little simple framing, but really pack a punch. So I'm gonna keep this layout in the back of my brain anytime that I come up with a big panel that needs a little something to it, and see if this is the one that's meant to be. So now it is time to give you some quilt reveal photos so you can see it all at once and have a better eye as to how it all turned out.